Well, there we go. There's our cue for this morning to get us going today. Hey, thanks for joining us today, just a couple of minutes after the top of the hour. Good morning to much of the crowd today, and good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. It's certainly a pleasure having you today. Hey, a brand new interface, mobility, MF enhancements. We're going to talk about how printers are discovered, workflows of mobile print processes, much more during the next half hour. And then afterwards, we're going to open things up for questions via chat. So, hey, thank you very much for joining today. My name is Doc Balgi. I'm a technical solutions specialist for ACDI. You know the drill. I've been talking about it as we've been getting set up. Grab a cup of coffee. We're talking PaperCut, and you know PaperCut is coffee driven. Kind of burning my hands a little bit on a nice cappuccino I have right beside me. So hope you got a good warm cup going, and let's get going for today. Stick around. We got some real cool stuff from the software you know and love, PaperCut. All right, let's get going today. The first thing we're going to talk about is the PaperCut NG and MF enhancements to both versions. Now, the biggest feature enhancement, we've been going nuts about this, talking about this, and I hope you maybe even seen it, but what we're bringing to the table today is the brand new interface. This thing rocks. I couldn't wait to see it, and once I got a hold of it, I was like, boy, this is just the most intuitive thing I've seen, and I'm sure you're going to agree. We'll probably only see a few slides because, you know, I'm not really running the application here, so I want to entice you to install this in your showroom or get set up for a trial so you can get the full benefits of the interface. Just a couple of slides to begin with right now on that. You ready? Here we go. A modern design on the interface. Very contemporary login screen. You know, kind of looks like a lot of the Azure sites, perhaps, that you've been to. Just that real, you know, modern look. Well, and you know, PaperCut is always on the leading edge, so it deserves a modern, extremely intuitive interface. It's always been that way, but now it's even better, if you can believe that. Well, here it is, the dashboard. One of the few actual screens, a full screen that I'll show you of version 17 today. Now on the left, look how clean that is. The navigation tabs, an updated dashboard. You know, I've talked about this before. I hope you don't overlook the value of the dashboard. There's a lot of print management systems out there. They don't have a dashboard at all. And you're just, you know, reliant on running reports to see what's going on. Maybe have them scheduled or something. That's how you get the information. Not with PaperCut, and that's what's so cool about it. Log in instantly, know what's going on, including real-time activity, which if I could scroll, it's a screenshot I could show you. But you'll see the real-time activity on the screenshot right at the bottom there. And you know that's there. It's been there in the past, but now it's just cleaner. It's just a nice, more modern look and design. So that's what's cool. Hey, have you seen this on LinkedIn? PaperCut has thrown down the gauntlet on this interface, challenging everyone to show them a better interface for print management. And we're going to challenge you right now, too. If you know or see a better print management dashboard, we want to know it. We want you to tell us. So there we have it. We're throwing it down. This is it. Every software company says their software is intuitive, but you know PaperCut, you know it is, and now it's even better. All right, that's one of the main features we're talking about today is the interface. The second thing, I'm busting out, I can't wait to talk about this because what we're talking about is mobility. And as we talk about mobility, I want to give just a little printing history. We did this the last time. Let's go through it a little bit more today. Printing, you know, if you were involved in printing, like I was back in 1990, and you tried to get a driver to work, it was really difficult. You had cables to deal with, so it was a lot of hardware. And then you didn't have the right connectors, so you had to find adapters and all this kind of stuff to get your printing going. Well, around the time we had Windows 95 going and some nice GUIs, things started changing a little bit, but we still now had to find that particular driver that worked. And finally, around the turn of the millennium, things were pretty good. I mean, simplified, we could get things running very quickly. So that was the beauty of what happened around the turn of the century. Now we start getting different devices, mobile devices, after 2010 up until about 2015, tablets, all sorts of operating systems. Everybody wants to print. Too much fragmentation, too many devices, driving IT people just nuts. It's like, I'd love to be able to provide this, but I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. There's no capability to do it. And so that brought us right back to that top curve where printing is difficult again today. But today, as of about 3 weeks ago, a nice birthday present from PaperCut. The day after my birthday, I get an email from my boss, Mark, who's on the call with us, and Mark says, version 17's out. It was before the office was open, and I just having my cup of coffee, of course, because it's PaperCut. I was like, great, let me install it. So I spent the, 10 minutes to upgrade my instance of PaperCut, and there I had version 17 right away. Oh, man, I'm telling you, I just love it. You will too, so get it installed. So we're talking mobility printing and mobile printing, and I kind of want to get a little definition together. In the past we've done some definitions. So the definition here that we're looking at for mobile printing is the fact that 4% of mobile printing is coming from smartphones and tablets. So we're really finding the majority of mobile printing is coming from laptops, Mac, PC, Chromebooks. And they're the ones traveling around the office. That, too, is mobile printing. But we'll call it mobility just to separate it from mobile as we are knowing and thinking about and talking about when we talk about smartphones and tablets and iPads and all that kind of stuff. So a simplified solution did not exist for this scenario. We didn't even know it was coming up. It just kind of took us all by surprise. So before version 17 of PaperCut, you didn't really have this. Now you do. And now you know why we're calling it not just mobile print, but mobility print, because it's taking all devices into consideration. Of course, it's PaperCut. It just works. We're going to make printing simple again. In a few steps, we discover and print any printer. We're going to go into details. This is the technical training, so we will get into some detailed information of how it works, what's going on under the hood, and all that kind of stuff. But after you install the mobility printing, and you need clients to interact with it, there's really no system administrators needed. There's no finding domains or joining domains or finding drivers. It's all contained in this one very cool application called Mobility Print. Now, let's take a look at all of the options that we have in PaperCut, because we're still not getting rid of what we had before. All of the options to tackle mobile and mobility are on this chart, and we're going to take this chart and go right to left this time. So when we look at what we have in PaperCut, we've always had iOS printing. You know how to do that. You set up the mini Mac, you put the drivers on there, you broadcast the queues, and then Bonjour's running. You might have to add it to different subnets and all that kind of stuff. You got to have one running. That's how iOS printing is working. And good for just iOS and macOS, because it's really Bonjour. We've got Google Cloud Print, works with all device operating systems. We can put it on any server OS. Good print usability, but a little complex to set up because you've got the Google Cloud Print side to set up, and then you've got the PaperCut side to set up, and you just got to make sure everything gels. I mean, it does, but sometimes you've got all these different things trying to talk to each other, so there could be a failure point at some point down the line. Email to print, still have it. Email to print is probably the easiest, most diverse way to get any platform anywhere to get a print inside of your network, and there's the clue there is to get it inside your network, because this can come from outside the network when you do email to print. Not too difficult to set up unless you want to start talking about Microsoft, rendering DLC files, XLS, PowerPoint, etc. Now you've got to run a sandbox, you do a shared folder, and you've got Microsoft Office installed, so it adds a little complexity to the setup itself. Not terrible, but it's there. And the same thing with web print as well. Very cool feature. You've got the browser, you log in, port 9191/user, and you've got the web print right there, upload your PDF, you're done. If you want Microsoft Office, you got to go a little deeper into the sandbox and install Microsoft Office so you can render those. So that's what we've had before, and I shouldn't say had because we still have, and you can still set things up with all of these. We're not replacing everything. We are enhancing now with mobility. And let's take a look at the part that's emphasized here on our slide, mobility print. We're handling almost every device. This is brand new, again, just 3 weeks old, although a lot of development behind it, and you're going to see a ton of development going forward. So many enhancements are coming up. There's already an enhancement in this we'll talk about in just a moment. But mobility print, every device OS is there except for Linux, coming soon, as you can see by the advertisement. On print servers, it's only good for Windows right now. So coming soon, macOS, Linux will be there. We've already got those on the other platforms. So right now it is only Windows. The accessibility is on the local network, so this is intended to be internal, not an external type of application use. Print usability is great. The options are there for users to select. You can do group access restrictions in PaperCut, so you can really control who is using this. All file formats are supported. I don't have to load Microsoft Office. How about that? And the setup, ding, ding, ding. Look at that. Everything's lit up there. We turned on the easy button for mobility print, and that's very true. It is very easy, and it's working very, very well in the field right now, and I'm very pleased to say that. So, diving under the hood, how does this all work? Well, let's start off with our requirements. Server requirements, as mentioned, it's Windows only right at the moment. So being Windows only, we're going to be able to install this on any current operating system of Windows. I say current. Actually, 2003 is on the list, but I would not install it on 2003. Certificates are bad and all that, and it's an unsupported operating system. I don't know why you'd even want to run it. But in any event, these are the ones. It's professional version, so I can't do home. That's the only disclaimer that we're going to have on that. There's limitations with home anyway. Port requirements. 9191 and 9192 from PaperCut. We're adding two more, 9163, 9164, and those are for HTTP requests or HTTPS. We have port 53 for DNS, and we have 5353 for MDNS. And I guess if we had another protocol, we'd probably have 53, 53, 53, but we don't. I'm just being funny. But in any event, those are the four new ports that we need to have open in the environment for mobility to work. On the client side, we're good with a lot of things. iOS, anything 9.2 and above. Yosemite and above on macOS. Windows 7 and above. Android, we need at least KitKat 4.4. ChromeOS with Chrome version 43+. Did you know Chrome gets updated too? Just your browser. So if you look at the browser, it has a version number. So as long as you're version 43, and it typically auto updates anyway, so you're probably on the current version. Speaking of auto updates, there is the disclaimer at the bottom there. We need an internet connection for auto update just to keep this going. And as mentioned, there's going to be feature enhancements and improvements on this product as we go forward. Typically we'll have the 3 extra releases throughout the year and maybe even some minor releases in between too. So there's our system requirements. Let's get into a little bit on setting up Mobility Print. Here's another V17 screenshot. See how it's a little bit different? Very cool, very easy to use. Left side are all your navigational tools, not at the top like it used to be. And identified, a lot easier to see, you know, with the black screen and the white lettering. That makes it very easy on the eyes. I do a lot of that with my own screens. I tend to use a darker screen with white letters, and it's much easier to read than a white screen with dark letters. So you've got the Options tab. This is where we're at. You've got the Mobile and BYOD tab. That's where you click into it inside of Options, and here's your setup capability for mobility. Now that first gray area in there, I shouldn't say a gray area, but it's gray in color. It says Mobile and BYOD. Please review the Mobile and BYOD chapter, et cetera, et cetera. There's a more information link. Of course, this is not real. I can't click on it. But when you install it and you click on that, it brings up all the information about all the options for mobile and mobility, and it even includes that chart that we just looked at. So you're like, I need a copy of that chart. Well, install V17, you have a copy of that chart. It goes through all the details of all the different ways, you know, web print and email to print, and, you know, the options and what it's good for or not. So that first section there is so cool. When you're installing, you could go through that with your customer. I'll also point out just on the upper right in V17 as well, you've got a little question mark and a circle. So there's your help files as well inside of PaperCut. And you know, whenever you need some information, you can always go to papercut.com/KB for knowledge base, or if you're inside the application, just click the little circle now with a question mark. You've got the full knowledge base available right there for you. And everything is just specified, laid out detail by detail. You know how those manuals are, and they've gotten better with version 17. All right, sorry, I digress a bit. So let's get back into the setup. The bottom section then, Mobility Print, nice new feature, logo, you know, sticker right there. And you see the Get Mobility Print. Well, guess what happens when you click that button? It's going to take you to a page that will allow you to download Mobility Print. You know, most things are really contained in PaperCut. This is a little separate installer, but the link is right there. So you're going to go ahead and click Get Mobility Print, click the installer, download and install it. Yeah, it's another one of those, I don't know, 2-minute, 3-minute type of installers. The same type of thing that we normally deal with in PaperCut because it just works. So when you're setting it up, just a couple of things to keep into consideration. You're going to want to think about, for deployment, do you have one print server or do you have multiple print servers? And with that, it kind of will depend on if you're using MDNS or DNS. So we'll talk more about that in just a second. You install it, as I mentioned, just literally a couple of minutes just on the install, not that bad at all. And once you're done, there is a new page for you to access, which is the administration page for the Mobility Print server. You can see the URL there. It's just the IP address of the print server, here's our new IP, port, 9163/admin, and that's how you get into it. I guess if I was to pose the question, what is the port if we go secure with HTTPS, and I already gave you the answer, you would know that would be 9164. See how easy that is? Again, just like PaperCut. Once you install it, you've got that running, you're going to want to test, and then you're going to ultimately want to share, and this is what's really cool. It's just built right into the mobility server, is this link that you share with your end users so they can set up their client. And we're going to go through that setup in just a moment. But once you get this thing set up, now your Mobility Print server is working and it's showing up, and you can see it right there. You'll see how many jobs are processed, the printers that are published, this is how you have access to it, et cetera, et cetera. So it's all right there. Down below, you can see on my screenshot, there's my web print. I've got a separate one set up. Below that's going to be email and, you know, all the other mobile stuff that we've had in the past. We're not forgetting about that. They're there. This is just so easy. It's just right in the forefront, so I encourage you to try that. All right, some more under the hood stuff. Let's get into printer discovery. So, you know, when you're in mobile, you've got your devices, you want to be able to find your printers. So we need to do what's called printer discovery. Probably my favorite slide here because there's only two things on it. Very clean, very easy to read. We've got MDNS and DNS. There we go. I've got another slide coming up that's full of information, so we go to both extremes here. But what we're talking about here, MDNS is really going to be a small office, and DNS is going to be set up more in an enterprise. That's pretty much how you're going to decide which print discovery option do I need. What do I mean by that? Well, the client has to discover the printer in order to be able to use it and to print to it. Keep in mind, those printers inside PaperCut could be virtual queues. So you can broadcast a hold queue, a virtual queue, a secure queue, one that's going direct, you know, whatever it is in PaperCut. That's the beauty of this. So however your queues react, we will be able to use them with mobility, but we have to find them. And that's done with printer discovery. MDNS is one of the ways to do it. That's really in a smaller environment, SMB type of environment. It's using UDP. UDP, you know, is a best effort type of broadcast, kind of like streaming, uses UDP, and that travels over TCP/IP, if you don't know. So UDP is giving this mass broadcast best effort, and it's trying to find the printers, and it's using that port 5353. DNS now is using an existing DNS infrastructure. In other words, they have to have a DNS server running in the local infrastructure, and if they have that running, now we're going to start using DNS-SD. Okay, let's pull out our acronym Bible and find out what that means. DNS-SD is service discovery. That's what that means. So that's a protocol. Protocol is like a language. So it's DNS-SD service discovery going over UDP/TCP. So not only is it best effort, but it's also getting a direct IP connection, and it's going for source port 53. So that's why we need both 53 and 5353 open, depending if we're using MDNS or DNS. Now, we also want to make sure HTTP or HTTPS is open because Android and Chrome use a simplified protocol to receive the printer information. So first of all, what happens on the server, they're going to discover using DNS or MDNS, and then the printer information is displayed on the client by using HTTP or HTTPS on a variety of those ports, depending on how you have things set up. So that's why we need all those 4 ports. And of course, 9191, 9192 for the PaperCut side, just want to make sure those are open. So we get this all going. We've got printer discovery working. We open up our mobility print server. We've got this, and I mentioned it before, but I want to point it out again, that you now have a very cool link that you can share with the end users. This is for self-service for the end user to set up their client. It doesn't get any easier than this. You click the link, and the first thing you get is the Windows installer. The big green box there, that's a video. It's a YouTube video that's embedded. Click play. It'll show you how to set up the client. Down below are the instructions. I know you can't read it on my screenshot. Again, have to install it so you can read those, enticing you to do that. And even below that are clicks to the other clients. So once you're in there, if you're setting up another client, you can just click that link, or if you're not on Windows or you want to go to something else, you could click those. On the left side, you have the content screen that I've highlighted, and it too has each of the client operating systems listed. So you can just click on them and get the movie, like on macOS, walks you right through how to install it, gives you instructions down below. Same thing with iOS, same thing with ChromeOS, same thing with Android. How cool is that? How easy is that? This will really make not only your life, but your end user's life simplified for mobility printing. These are videos. It instructs them on how to do it. Let's take a look at the workflow now. What happens with the back end when you use a device and you need a printer to print to. Pretty easy stuff here, but just want to make sure you get the idea of what's happening behind the scenes. After all, this is technical training. So on iOS and on macOS, we're using bonjour request. So client, is looking for the printer, sending a bonjour request to get the list of printers. The mobility print server sends the response back to the client, which includes the server details and the printer details. Then when it's received, the client can see the published printers. Happens in a fraction of a second, and they're right there, easy for the end user to see on iOS and macOS. Android, ChromeOS, and Windows, slightly different, but in essence the same type of thing, but on the back end, when the client requests the print, it discovers the mobility print servers using MDNS and DNS. Then the client sends the HTTP request. Remember, we talked about that, either HTTP or HTTPS, for the list of the connected printers. The mobility print server responds, and when the client receives it, then they see the published printers. Now, when we have DNS-SD, there's a slight difference. Now, this is where you need their networking team. This is nothing that you're going to do. We don't do this at ACDI as well. I mean, this is the customer's network and what they're doing. So what's going to happen if we have a larger network and they're using DNS-SD, then DNS has to be configured. And after all, the customer is going to know, their environment. We won't, or you won't either. So you need to configure the A record, the subzone, and the pointer records inside of DNS and just have them point to the mobility print server. Then once they do that, I mean, again, it just works. When the client requests a list of printers, it just automatically shows up on the mobility print server because it's talking via DNS and DNS-SD, so they're instantly available. All right, we found the printers, we got everything going on all our platforms. Now we want to print. How do we print? How does that happen? This is my busy slide, so this has got the most information on it, but when you really look at it, it's pretty straightforward because on iOS, Chrome, or Android, we're just going to press print. We get the discovery like we just talked about. User selects the printer. Your options are then shown, duplex, color, copies. User selects the options, duplex, whatever, presses print. And now the job is delivered to the server as a PDF file. So this is why we don't have to worry about conversions and things like that with mobility because everything's coming over as PDF. On iOS, it's using the IPP protocol. Now, CUPS printing has been using IPP for years. So now we're tapping in to using the IPP protocol on iOS devices. On Chrome and Android, it's the HTTP API. And again, that's how the job then is delivered to the mobility print server and spooled into the data spool printers folder. Now, if you look into it, there's three pieces to the job, every job. It's going to have your PDF. It'll have your options and instructions, which are like a ticket information kind of. And then you've got the printing state, which is the information about the job, the status of the job. So this PDF is now converted to the PDL, the printer description language, all these acronyms. That's why I love IT. It's all acronym stuff, right? So follow it. The PDL that's used by the printer, like PostScript or PCL or maybe some other type of driver. So we don't have to take a driver, a PostScript PCL driver, and try to install it on an iOS device or try to install it, which you can't, on ChromeOS or anything like that. So we don't have to worry about that because everything's coming in from the client as a PDF. And now we'll take the vendor's driver and do the rendering, PCL, PostScript, whatever the case may be, pop it into the print queue, and boom, out it goes. Or it goes to a hold queue, however we're setting up the physical printer. Now, Windows, I got a little step in between because it's not coming in as a PDF from Windows. It's coming in as PostScript, and it's generated by the PaperCut Global PostScript driver, which, by the way, a new enhancement in V17, this is a signed driver, the PaperCut Global PS driver, so Windows won't bark at you anymore when you install this thing. So the PostScript then is converted to PDF using a third-party software called GhostTrap. It's installed by default. There is an option not to install it. I don't know why you wouldn't, but again, it's all part of that 2-minute install of the Mobility Print server, so there's no reason, it's not like it's going to save you any time or anything to not install it. So put it on there because that's what it's doing. It's taking PostScript, converting it to PDF. Now we have PDF workflow coming into the Mobility Print server, and we just output it using the vendor's PCL, PostScript, or whatever driver we have installed. It's that easy. Let's talk about the client and how they interact then, and authentication. How is authentication done? How are the names stored? Credentials are stored after the first print job on an iOS 9 device, and on 10 they're stored, but you have the option to forget the credentials. Why would you want to forget the credentials? Keep in mind, we're in Mobility Print. When you travel to, a coffee shop and you want to get on their Wi-Fi, you want to be a little bit careful. You don't always want to leave connections open. So maybe in Mobility Print, you're in a library and you're using a public printer, so you don't necessarily want to keep that connection open. You might want to forget those credentials. So you have that capability in iOS 10, Android, ChromeOS. There's a checkbox that says, remember me, and it's good for 7 days. You don't have to check it. You can do it every time, or you can leave it, so you're remembered for 7 days. On the macOS side, your information is just added to the keychain. Same thing really on Windows. You're going to add it once when you install that PostScript driver, the global driver, and that's set up there, and then you won't have to add them again. So there's your user authentication. Now let's take a look at the interaction when a user has all of this there and they want to print. How does that workflow go, the print workflow go from the client then all the way through to the output device? So let's talk about these, and we'll separate them by each of the platforms. iOS printing, very easy. You're going to view it's essentially, we're talking native iOS printing. You're going to view the content you want. You tap Share, tap Print, select Printer. You tap one of them. This is the only difference then between native. You're going to enter your domain, username, and password. Click OK. Select your options, and then tap Print. There's iOS. Android. There's an app for that. You're going to go to Google Play. Download the Mobility Print app. You could do that now, but if you don't have Mobility running, it won't really make any difference. So you enable the printing service. That's just in your settings. Just you drop down and turn on the Mobility Print service. To print, when you have a document open, you'll have your menu in the top right corner. You're going to select the PaperCut printer. Look for that cool little PaperCut icon on the right. Select Job Attributes. Print. Your dialog box will pop up. Enter your username and password, tap Print, good to go. ChromeOS also has an app too, so you'll install that, and this is all in that page. It's all right there, so you don't have to go searching around for everything. When you share the link, that's a link that will download the app. And then in Chrome, once you install that app, real easy, File, Print, dialog box is open, so you just click the Change button and look for the list of printers, find the one with the PaperCut icon. Do your printing attributes, click Print, username and password, done. macOS printing. So to install it, just like you do any printer, go to Printers and Scanners, click the plus sign, click Add. And now when you're in an app that supports printing, what you do is, you select Print or do the Command P like we do on Mac. Select your target printer, Print. It's going to ask for your username and password. Press OK. Finally, in Windows, I alluded to it before, there's that printer setup. Again, it's shared on that page. We couldn't see it on the screenshot, but it's right there. So you run the installer. When you're prompted for permission, you click yes. You accept the license agreement. Don't read it. It's an EULA. Just click yes, as we always do. From the list of your printers, you select the one you want to use. Click next. Enter domain, username, and password. Click next. Finish the installer. And now it's ready. You don't have to do that every time. That's a one-time thing, and you're done. Ready to go. Then file print for any application. So there we go. There's your workflows from everything. We talked about how to find the printers, how to get the jobs over to the devices themselves, how the clients work, how we install them. Look how easy that is in just a few minutes of discussion here. Now you might think I told you that Mobility Print is going to be updated. There's already enhancements that are coming up. And you might be wondering how it's going to auto-update. Well, I think I just answered it by saying auto-update, because that's what it does. So I'm putting the question and the answer right here on the slide for you. That'll make it easy when we get to the test at the end of the webinar today. No, I'm just kidding. How do I update Mobility Print? It just does it. So Mobility Print Server, the Android Chromebook, Chromebook, it's just doing it automatically. The information we're presenting here is how you disable the auto update in case you want to do so, and you may do that. Now don't worry about writing that all down. You've got instructions and everything. You know, PaperCut's always really good for getting everything together for you. There we go. Mobility Print. Oh my gosh, it's so cool. I've set it up several times already. People are just loving it, so I encourage you to check it out and try it yourself. That's NG and MF. I want to spend just a couple of slides on MF in particular and let you know what's coming up. I guess we've got a little bit past our 30 minutes. So here's what's happening in MF. Toshiba has a refreshed UI design and branding, and we now have integrated scanning with Toshiba. So many manufacturers now are joining us with integrated scanning. This gives us the capability of going directly to scan to me on an email address, to their home directory, to network files. All of that is available now, very easily done on the Toshiba platform, easier now to set up and configure, and you do have the multi-select print jobs available on the print release screen as well. So this is looking a lot more like many of the other manufacturers. We've got 19 supported embedded applications available, 19 vendors, 19 manufacturers that work with PaperCut, and the list just keeps growing. Xerox also has had a refreshed UI, so it's looking kind of like the Toshiba, and like many of the other manufacturers all have this similar look. And since now we have the refresh on the UI for Xerox, what's next for them? We are right on the horizon with getting integrated scanning going on the Xerox units as well. If I was a betting man, I would say that by the end of the year, you will see integrated scanning on the Xerox platform. Sharp, Kyocera. We've got the guest access button available for you on the device login, and that'll take the user right into PaperCut MF without authentication. Again, this is Sharp and Kyocera, and you can even change the name of that button too. So you might think, well, I've seen that before. I could always do guest anonymous access. What's different about that? Well, when you turn on guest and anonymous access previously, it didn't allow you to select the other authentication methods. It locked those out. So now you can use guest access in combination with the other access methods. Access methods, look at that. If you're familiar with PaperCut, a little terminology change. We used to call it authentication methods. Now, when you're looking in the device, it's going to say access methods. So there's another little bit from V17. And the last thing we have on MF then are a couple of additions. We have the RICO Adaptable Authentication API, the AAA service. So now we have single sign-on that's available with PaperCut that'll take you right into Global Scan. Epson Integrated Scanning has now just been released as well. We've added Canon and Rizzo devices to the list, so more of them are available, and also a little refresh on their screens as well, on their login screens, so everybody's kind of looking all the same as you put PaperCut. And that can be really key for your end user too, when you have a mixed fleet of manufacturers, and now all of a sudden you have a constant screen across the top, across everybody's platform. So that's another real cool thing that we have with PaperCut. At least we're getting there. Almost everybody's got that. Just a couple more to knock down on that. All right, one more slide to go, and then we're done. I want to just talk about some enhancements again on both platforms, NG and MF. Automatically importing new printers on Mac and Linux. If you've ever done Mac installs, you know you had to run that command line process to get the printers to show up. You will not have to do that anymore, automatically importing. Or if you want, you could also do it manually. It's purely optional. When you're running the web print sandbox now, which is when you install Office on your web print so that you can render Microsoft Office files, you will now be able to render open Office files. You don't have to do anything, just as long as Office is installed on the web print. It will also take care of open Office support and text files too. Text files will be rendered by Microsoft Word. So you can now use that as another supported format to be able to do a web print. Admin rights. You know, PaperCut is great for granular rights for admin. And now it's really easy to set those. You've got to clear all, select all. So, you know, you've been setting some things and you're getting messed up on what you want to do for that admin. Just do clear all and then set, you know, this admin only has rights to provide refunds, or this one has mobility rights, or what have you. So you're able to do that. Very cool admin rights. You know, you can really schedule those to whomever you need so the right person has the right access at the right time. Individual admin and user web pages can be bookmarked now, so that's really cool. You could bookmark, let's say, the reports page, you know, have that available. You may have to log in, you know, if you're not authenticated to the session, but you've got reports, you can go right to it, or right to your printers, or right to your user page, so you can bookmark those so you don't have to hit the dashboard and then get into something else first. So that's a really nice, convenient way. It makes it real easy to use PaperCut by bookmarking those pages. And then finally, we're going to talk about semantic versioning. This is a little bit more on the PaperCut side, but as you look yourself at PaperCut going forward, you'll have a better idea of where it is at in the process. Semantic versioning really talks about having major, minor, patch information in that. We've kind of been doing that for the past years. I don't know if you're aware of it. Version 17 does relate to the year. So it's 2017, so it's version 17. So somebody tells you they're running V14 of PaperCut, well, you know it was installed in 2014. So we've always kind of had that, but now we're going to get a little more information on the minor builds and the patches, and that just could kind of help know exactly where it's at in the process. So that's what we have for you today. That really brings our webinar to a close. I certainly hope you got something out of it, because it was my pleasure to present this information for you. I love PaperCut, and I really love talking about it with you. So we're going to pause for a moment. We'll give you a chance to get some questions together. We'll address those via chat in just a moment, so please go ahead and type in your questions there. If you don't have any questions, hey, thanks for joining today, and we'll see you at the next webinar. For ACDI, I'm Doc Balchi. Have a great day. All right, we've got some questions coming in, so we'll go to the second half, just a few minutes of some questions that have come in via chat. If you do have something there, please, again, feel free to put something in our chat request. So let's see if we can address all of these. Mark has been replying to many of them as well. Do we have a release date with mobile print that allows authenticating with ID versus username and password? We do not. That would be a good option. We'll certainly put that in for, PaperCut, they'll take your suggestions and they have people vote on things as well. So you can always look for that information and vote for the types of things. And PaperCut does a really unusual thing. They listen to their users and try to respond. How about that? Because they're a development company. So they really do look at these things, and people that are voting on things that they need that get to the top level get much more attention than, it's like, hey, I'd like to have this, and nobody else talks about it. Mark has put a link up there for mobility printing, so please click on that to see how it works. Mobility print is only installed on the print servers? No, you could install mobility print. Matter of fact, that's a great question. You could have multiple mobility print servers, and you may want to. You have, depending on bottlenecks and that type of thing, how much people are using it. So you could install this onto any other box, if you will. You're just going to need to have the secondary print server installed as well so that it can talk to the print queues. So you install, secondary server, you might have a print queue on that one, you can see the other queues, and then mobility print can be installed on that as well. So yes, you can install it on just about anything. So that's what we got right now. Well, Windows, right now. We got Linux and Mac coming, so stay tuned for that. That's all we got at the moment, so keep it open for just a moment.
Doc, it's Mark. Yeah. Another question came in with regards to being able to install the mobility print on an Active Directory server.
I would probably not want to do that. Your AD server is most likely your domain controller. I don't like to install anything on a domain controller. I would say, however, if that server is only providing AD services, then that shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, and so a couple other questions that came in with regards to this presentation you sat through today will be recorded, and it will be posted out on the ACDI website. So please come back in a few days, and we'll have that up and going for you. If you would like access to the slides or anything specifically with regards to this, please reach out to your ACDI Regional Solutions representative, and they'll be able to assist you, or feel free to get a hold of Doc or myself or anyone here at ACDI. We're all willing to help.
Absolutely. So keep it open for just a couple more seconds.
Yeah.
See if anybody else said
so
anything.
there was another question that came on with regards to a like QR code and barcode release, and yes, that is an option that's been available since the 14.3, I think it was, release of PaperCut's mobility printing. So yes, you could print out a QR code label, place it on the device, so users walk up and with their mobile device at their own, whether it's a tablet, phone, whatever, scan the QR code to release. Good question, Russ.
Yes, indeed. It's exciting. V17 is just so cool. I'm
Absolutely.
just having so much fun with it. Yep. I love the interface. As I mentioned before, PaperCut has always been intuitive. That's one reason I love the product. And now it's just taken that next leap of faith into such a great product. So I encourage you to try it.
Doc, as always, thank you very much for everything you've done for us today. And it looks like we don't have any more questions. Everyone, stay tuned for next month's technical webinars. If there's some suggestions you would like to have, on what we're presenting, please get it over to us. We'd love the feedback, and if there's any way we can improve on these, share that with us as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a great day.